You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. As you can see, we are in a familiar place. We've been here a time or two. Actually, well, now a time or two, but we are back in Train4Freedom, but this time we are not recording with Brandon. We were recording with someone different. Jordan, Heiney, welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just telling Nick, I just came from recording with Nick Showman, which actually will be out after your episode, but I was telling him how every podcast that I've done outside of where I record has been in a gym. Every single one of them. Like, I went for a Matheny muscle. I've been here twice, and now I've been to Nick's. Like, every other time, it's at my house or virtual. But for some reason, gyms just the reason I like it is like all right, now you can see we got the gym in the background. So like, and it's like in your element. I kind of like the interview style of it. I don't like to call podcast interviews, but in a way they kind of are.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But that threw me off so much. I was like, what is that noise? But yeah, so kind of just to kick this episode off, I like to allow the guests to give a background on themselves and tell us who you are. So just kind of give us a gist of who you are.
Yeah. So obviously I'm Jordan. I've been coaching volleyball for I say officially 8 years, but you ask Trisha, who we play with, or my mom, or anybody like that, they'll say I've been around at coaching since I was like 6 years old. But yeah, I've officially been coaching for 8 years. Started at Licking Valley. Did 2 years there coaching 8th grade. Then I went to Pick North. I coached there for 2 years, 8th grade as well. And then after that, I just stuck with club volleyball. That's really where it's at. But before then, graduated from Licking Valley with a year after Sierra, and went to OU Zanesville. Got a coaching education minor. So coaching is like my thing, even if it's sport specific or like strength conditioning. I originally went for strength conditioning, but it sort of like meshed into just being like volleyball guy. But after that, I did a little bit at Columbus State. Got an exercise science degree. I think that's where Nick went too. Nick Showman.
I think so, yeah.
He went to Columbus State too. So went there. Not the same time. He's much older. But I did a bunch of internships. I actually interned with Nick at one point. So I know him pretty well. I trained with him growing up in high school. I interned with him. That's my first exposure into like strength conditioning coaching. But volleyball coaching, I've been in it all my life. But after college, I sort of just jumped right into it. I was coaching at Valley at the time, and then just roll with it. I was looking for a job, applied to literally everything. I knew coaching was my passion. I knew what I wanted to do, so I had to find something that like morphed around volleyball. Right. So I applied to a bunch of marketing stuff, like social media managing. I applied to, funny thing, I applied to work at a morgue, a high state morgue, just because I needed a job, I needed a job, something that would work around volleyball, because that's just what I do. But other than that, that's sort of me. I'm the volleyball guy.
How did that even start? I mean, I think I know, but just for our listeners who may not know who you are, how did your love for volleyball even start? Because Valley doesn't have a men's volleyball team, so it's did you ever play? Like,
yeah, so I played officially like 2 years. I played 2 years of like organized doubles volleyball through Vanguard, just a club in Columbus, and then I played one year of sixes indoor through I think it's Vanguard or Zenith, one of the two. I may have it mixed up. Yeah. It's been a while, but that was my only organized like play that I've had. But other than that, I've been just watching. I literally went to every practice with my mom. My mom coached at Licking Valley for 20 plus years. Yeah. Coached Sierra. I think she coached her when she was in 8th grade, and then like moved up with her to varsity. And so like I know Sierra really well, that class. So just being around it and playing. Like, I was never really coached, but it just sort of like came to me because I watched them play. I watched my mom coach. I was on the sideline doing my homework, but actually listening to what she's doing, the drills that she's running, and like it just stuck with me. I started playing with them when I was like I don't know, like 12 years old. I was joining them with the drills. I'd be like, can I join, Mom? And then I just picked it up. Like, nobody really taught me, like, pass like this or hit like this or whatever. I just watched, and the passion just grew from there. And, I mean, the rest is history.
Wow, no one would have. I feel like, I mean, it makes sense, knowing your mom coached for so many years, but I feel like a lot of people wouldn't expect, especially a man, like, not to be any way, but like a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected it but being around it all the time, it's just something that you naturally come to, enjoy. Well, there's two different sides of it. You either come to enjoy it or you come to like want nothing to do with it, I feel like. But
for sure,
you came to enjoy it, and it's almost like you found your passion way sooner than a lot of people, might, because a lot of people, it takes, I mean, for me personally, like, you still don't maybe know your full passion or like what you're truly passionate about, but you come across those things that do bring you pleasure, and it's like, oh, I can maybe make some money doing this as well. Like, not that that's why you do it, but it's just like it adds another factor to it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I originally, my brother was in the same boat. He's younger than me, and he grew up with my mom coaching. He went to everything, but he sort of went that opposite route. I mean, he's super athletic. He played lacrosse. He ran cross country. He did all that stuff. But like, I've talked to him. I said, you should go coach lacrosse. It's in our blood. Go coach. And he just doesn't want anything to do with it. And I mean, that's just what he wants. And that's cool. But I'm always joking around with him, and he should be a coach. But like, before I'd even like, I almost went down that route because I went to OU originally for marine biology.
Okay.
And I completely changed my course after that. Like, before I even started college, I was like, you know what? I'm going to change my major, even before the first day of class.
So you're lucky. You're unlike you. I went and changed my major like 3 or 4 times throughout college. Not like officially, but like, you go in thinking you're going to do one thing, and you don't have to declare till like sophomore year or something.
Oh, for sure.
And like, I remember, like, before even sophomore year came around, I think I was on my third, like, I think I'm going to go this route. And then it was until about end of sophomore year. It was right when I think I needed to declare. That's when I finally decided, like, all right, this is what I want to go to school for. Like, I took one of the general education classes, and it was a business class, and I was like, I like this. So you're lucky that you were able to, like, before it even started, and you didn't have to take maybe some classes that you didn't necessarily want to take, or like you almost wasted time because now you're not even part of that, anymore.
Yeah. Well, my situation was kind of different. It's not that I like had it figured out. Like, I was still like easing my way into it. I wanted to do something with sports, period. That's it. And obviously volleyball was in the back of my mind at that time. I was playing with Trisha and Sierra in these rec leagues. But like, I went in with like VA benefits because my entire family was in the military. And so I was fortunate enough to use the benefits for my stepdad. And so with that, like, when you use VA benefits, you have to have like a set program that you're going after. If you do a class outside of that program listing or whatever, they'll make you pay for it themselves.
Okay.
So like, I had to select something to make sure it's being paid for, or they just wouldn't pay for it for me. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just choose this. And then I just veered this way. Quick right turn.
So what I also want to talk about, so like, because you went to, I want to call it local college, because like, you didn't go away, to the big Ohio State campus. You didn't go to, a whole different state. Did you like that and truly enjoy that, or would you maybe not wish you'd done it differently, or maybe wish you would have kind of experienced the other side of it?
Yeah, I go back and forth sometimes, because like, a part of me wishes I tried to pursue like collegiate volleyball, because I like, even now I feel like I could potentially like make it to college volleyball somewhere, and get that experience of being a college athlete. But like, I always fall back, like, the reason I am where I'm at, like, is because I went there, know, and I'm super happy of where I'm at right now. I'm not disappointed. If I would have went to, I'm not this good, but Ohio State and played at Ohio State, like I definitely wouldn't be still in Newark, Ohio, coaching volleyball, coaching these girls from Licking Valley locally. But like, I would definitely still be doing something in this field, most likely. But like, I feel like my situation would have been completely different, and I'm happy with where I'm at right now, and it's just it is.
Yeah, I mean, and Licking Valley itself is a big. They're a big community. Yeah. It's one thing, like we had it at I went to walk-ins and we had it, but not. I always make fun of Sierra and say that you guys were like a sports cult, though, because you guys are crazy. Kinda. But also, it's just like you guys have such a strong community that even people that graduate or people who don't have kids playing at the football game are still going to the football game to support. Sure, yeah. So, and it's one of those things that you're able to give back to the community that kind of help build you at the same time.
Oh, exactly. Like, I mean, as Licking Valley, we're in a valley, like it feels like when you're in like Hanover, like it feels like you are like that's it, like you are in valley country, but like there's nothing else outside there. We're in here, everybody knows everybody. It's just like one of those towns where like you just know everybody, so
yeah. So I kind of wanted to ask what you train here, or you train athletes here, and you also do volleyball. So you don't just train volleyball athletes specifically, do you? Or do you train others, or do you just kind of train volleyball specific?
Yeah, so as of right now, this is like I said, I interned with Nick. That was like in 2018, but I didn't officially start training until like I'm going on 2 years of like strength and conditioning coaching. But for right now, I train everybody on the strength and conditioning type on the side. But I want to get I'm getting known in the community as like the volleyball guy, and that's sort of the route I want to go. Okay. I just want to like keep building on that and eventually get to the point where I'm just all volleyball on the strength and conditioning side, sport specific clinics and camps, whatever I'm going to offer for volleyball. But for right now, I have some baseball players, some football players, lacrosse players. Let's see, pretty much any sport that like focuses on speed, really. Yeah. That's what we focus on here at Train4Freedom, is just speed and strength and just getting like that top performance, right. But you talked with Brandon a little bit about like what Train4Freedom is all about, and that's sort of what I live. Like when I play volleyball, like I'm like in the zone, right? I'm not playing it to be super. I am super competitive, but like
I think that's why we still play, like especially down in Newark Station. That's like my big thing. People are like, "Why do you play so much?" I'm like, as growing up an athlete, and then once that athletics is gone, you're like, I need that kind of competitiveness in my life.
For sure. I 100% agree with that. Like if you growing up as an athlete, if you don't like just stopping, especially going to OUZ. I had an opportunity to play basketball at OUZ, but then their program shut down. And it was a whole thing. But it was like up and no competition from there. So I was just rec leagues, any leagues that I can get into to get that competitive nature in. Yeah. And that's just where I thrive. That's where I'm most comfortable in when I'm competing, and like when I'm playing volleyball, like I'm like no fear, no doubt, right? Yeah. I'm out on the court in the sand, wherever I'm playing. Like I just feel super relaxed. Like you see me on the court, like I'm never like yelling across the court or like anything. Like I'm usually over on the court listening to the music, singing to the song, or just like laughing. Like if I make a mistake, I don't even care, because I mean I know it's rec ball, but
right. Well, that's what me and Sierra butted headed on this a couple times. But like, if we lose a game at Newark Station, is my day going to change tomorrow? No, absolutely not. Yeah. Do I want to win that game? Absolutely, and I'm going to work my butt off to make sure that I do it. Yeah, exactly. That's the goal, is I want to win. But like, she gets kind of all worked up if we lose, and I'm like, it is what it is to me, because like, and she's like, well, you just don't care, and I'm like, well, no, I do. It's just it's not going to change my day tomorrow. It's not going to change the rest of my night. Like, do I wish we won? Absolutely. That was the goal. But it's just like, she's a little more competitive, I'd say, to me. But yeah. So kind of, how did Train4Freedom for you come about? Because like you said, you were applying jobs all over the place.
Yeah,
and then
so that was kind of a crazy route. So like before, when I after I applied at the morgue, I saw this post, TAD Sports over in Granville. They were looking for trainers, and I was like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't get that job, because I immediately sent in my resume. We set up an interview, and I started working there like the week after that. And I'm like, hey, that's cool. And that's where Brandon was working at the time. He was working at TAD, and like I just got to talking to him. We connected, and then from there he was telling me about his Train4Freedom at the time. It was a supplement company, and then it just grew into this. And after TAD closed, I was like, I still want to coach. This is what I want to do. So like I was like, hey, can I come with you? So that was sort of how that went. And ever since then, like I've just been living the Train4Freedom life. Like I've been in here helping. I was in here helping him set up like the equipment, the turf, when he had Valley's turf in here. That was a pain in the butt. That was awful. But I mean, we had to do what we had to do to get it open to start training. Like we were training with like 2 racks over there, a couple benches, some dumbbells, and like the free lap system that we use for sprinting. 1 chip when we like there's 3 or 4 of us over there training, so we have 4 athletes trading off the chip, making sure we get the numbers and stuff. So like it was sort of just like it just happened, you know. That's how Train4Freedom happened for me. Like I didn't hear about it beforehand. I started at TAD. There's Brandon.
Very similar to what Brandon talked about during his episode, where it's like all of a sudden it's there, and you gotta take the opportunity or let it pass by.
Oh, for sure. I took that opportunity. You know, as either take the opportunity or like just stop the strength and conditioning type stuff. Like I'd find somewhere to do it, but like this was a continuous road, and it made sense. So I was like, let's do it. So
So you started training here. Did you just start working with? You were just kind of focused on athletes, because did you guys have like the gym and everything at the? You guys didn't have that at the beginning, did you?
Yeah. So it was kind of weird how it first worked out. It's getting easier now with Brandon buying the building and everything, but like the owner of this side, I had to like sort of work around their schedule. So when I wanted to schedule a skill training for volleyball, I had to like text Kellen Thomas. He's the Granville basketball coach right now. He's the one that not owned this side, but he like ran this side of the building. So I had to text him like every Sunday. I'd be like, hey, what's the schedule this week? And he would say, Monday's this, Tuesday's this, Thursday's this. And I had to do that week after week after week. But I mean, that was just one thing I had to do to get people in and do the skill training. And so whenever they didn't have anybody in here, 3:30's open, I'll take it. Like literally any time that was open, I was like, I'll take that. You cool with that, Kellen? And then that was that. It was tough at first, because it was just a big learning curve, because people wanted to schedule like it'd be like March, and they'd want to go, do you have stuff in like August? And I'm like, you know, like
let me get back to you the week before.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, unfortunately, circumstances, but it was tough. But I mean, we made it work, and I've been growing now. I had my clinic this morning, my last one for my first clinic that I've had, which is a pretty big success.
Which I want to give you credit, because it sold out pretty quickly, didn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I posted it was 8 a.m. for middle schoolers, which is kind of early to begin with. But again, that's the only time that I had it in the gym. So I was like, hey, I want it. Let's do it. But yeah, I posted it on Facebook, shared it, and it like filled up within like 2 hours.
Wow.
And I'm like,
for your first clinic,
for my first clinic, and I'm like, I was texting Brandon. I was like, do you think I can get another hour? So we set up the 9 o'clock time too, and that filled in not within 2 hours, but within the next day, it filled up again. And I was like, I felt like my body was just like full of like appreciation, and like people are relying on me. Like they see me posting this, and I'm gonna be running it, and I'm like, like my like I just felt like the fulfillment in my body. Like I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna keep doing it. Like super appreciative to everybody that like signed up super quick. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought it would be like one of our classes that we have on that side. We have like speed and strength classes that we post out, but like Nothing like that. Like
Yeah.
people were messaging me left and right, said, "Hey, the link's not working. How do I sign up?" Because I 12 spots and that's it. Especially like with the limited space, it's tough to get more than that in here. But I super thankful for just the opportunity to do it. And yeah, it felt so good to fill up that fast.
So, like, tell the people what's the difference. Like, what are you doing different at a clinic versus like maybe your in-person training? And maybe not everybody wants the in-person training. So, like, kind of tell like what is like how do you kind of run your clinics? Like, what is your overall goal of them?
Oh yeah. So I mean, the way I look at it, I want to give the athletes as much information as they can. Like when they first come into like their first lesson, one-on-one lesson, we'll go that one-on-one lesson. I sort of like brain dump everything I know. I try to get them as much information as I can. And at the beginning, I'm like, all right, I talk a lot. Okay, I talk a lot. But if you don't understand anything, if you want me to stop and be like, hold up, can you explain this a little bit more? I'm more than happy to do that. Like, that's just sort of how I am. I want the athletes to know everything that I know. That's how I treat really any lesson. So like to me, I don't see much difference between like a clinic and a one-on-one lesson because I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm trying to dump as much information into the athletes as possible. If they absorb it, they absorb it. At the end of each session, I like, what'd you learn today? And then I have them like pick one or two things, so I know that they're like it's sinking in. They're understanding this. I said, okay, cool. Maybe next week we add one more thing, But in my head, they're the same, just more people at a clinic.
Okay.
And it's kind of tougher for a clinic because like you have all these different people, different positions. You have a middle hitter, you have a setter, you have a defensive specialist, and like the defensive specialist isn't going to care what you like to hit middle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I got to like pick and choose what I want to throw at them for them to absorb it. Like a defensive specialist can still hit just in the back row. So maybe I don't get into like specifics like footwork for a middle hitter. I would just go for the general left, right, left, and then go that route. But I don't see much difference in my head. Just more people in a clinic.
Okay. So like when you have a new, we'll say volleyball athlete, we'll focus on the volleyball. When you have a new one-on-one client that wants to work with you, what are you looking at and how are you planning to like get started with them? Like what's the first thing that you're looking for and where do you start with them?
Oh, I mean, I first ask their age. Like their age really tells me a lot, especially like being a club coach, like the teams are like sectioned by age. 12 up to 18, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, whatever. So like being a club coach, I can see like the difference between each age group. Like I can see the difference between a 12 and a 14-year-old. Like it's only 2 years difference, but like the 14-year-old has they're 8th grade, so like 2 years of school ball experience. So they have that one extra year of experience. So they're going to understand where base is, where to transition to, like basic stuff like that. But when I see a 12-year-old, they're like, okay, they're probably not going to understand that at all. So like I go basic, and then go from there. So age is the number one that's what determines where I start with them. But after that, I sort of ask them what they want to get better at. Where do they see themselves? Because they can come to me and like literally want to do anything. If they ask me like, what do you think I should work on? Whatever you want to work on. Like you're not coming to me for me to tell you what to do. You're coming to me to have me help you where you want to be. That's how I look at the one-on-one sessions. Like, so I'll talk to them and try to get a gauge or a feel of like where they see themselves. And then from there, I'm like, what do you want to work on? And if they say hitting, I said, okay, we'll work on hitting. Like, I'm not going to say they come in and then I say, we're going to work on passing today, even if they want to work on hitting, So, like, I judge it mainly on what they want. And that's worked out so far. And then I do a couple drills that'll help me gauge where their skill level is. Like, I'll have them, if they're in for hitting, for example, I'll have them just hit underneath the net. And then are they snapping? Are they bringing the elbow back? Are they stepping with the left foot if they're right-handed? Like just little things like that. And if they're not, I just point it out. And like I said, I just brain dump.
Okay.
Maybe hold back a little bit for the little girls.
Yeah,
but like,
not to overwhelm the little ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just make it fun for them.
Yeah, I mean, what would you prefer? Like, what's your position that you like to train the most? Like, what do you have a position that you prefer?
I mean, as of right now, I've only had one clinic, but so I've loved the clinic. That's been super cool. But I think to get the most out of it, I know I'm only one person. I'm stretching myself thin, but like I suggest to people 1-on-1s 100%. Like the clinics are good, but you only get so many touches, and with 1-on-1, it's just you. Maybe like a 2-on-1, that'd probably be good too. But like, that's what I'd suggest is the private sessions is like sort of where it's at.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete that really wants to get better, that's really serious about it, going to clinics is great. Like I know Denison has a camp that they do a bunch of like colleges have camps and clinics. I know Buckeye has camps and clinics, Hova, New Wave, whatever. But the 1-on-1 lessons, like that's where you really get in depth, like specific training, and that's sort of where I've found that I've kind of thrive, and is the 1-on-1 training, because like I like get my phone out, I set it up, and I record them, and then I have them come over and watch the film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, see how you took this step here, and then we need to change this and make sure it's like this because of XYZ. So that's where I've found, like, where I've just thrived. It's just the 1-on-1 sessions. Even though I run out of time and I'm exhausted by the time I'm done with my day, but like that's sort of where I've found that people get the most out of it.
I like that you mentioned the setting up your phone and showing them, because the visualization I feel like is a big thing. I've been noticing it. I do some videography for Shelby McCombs, and she records on her iPad a lot, and we'll have like sit down and show them to go back and forth, and like the kids, you see it click in their brain all of a sudden. They're like, oh, like you can say it like your foot, you're doing this, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But when you show them, it's like a whole different thing. So like the visualization side of things is, I feel like, huge, especially with younger athletes.
Yeah, 100%. Like that click that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just side note, that's one of the coolest things to see. As a coach, any coach, really, basketball, volleyball, strength and conditioning, as soon as you see that, oh, shoot, that's how you do it. And, like, that's one of the coolest things to me as a coach to see. Like, hands down, my favorite part. Because that just shows that, like, they're actually listening to you. They're taking your advice and doing something with it. But, like, back to your point about the footage, that I've seen, like, a bunch of, like, professional coaches. I know the coach at Louisville, their volleyball coach, they have like the big screen up in their gym, and they have the camera on them that's like delayed a little bit. So they would go up and do their hit, and then after they get the hit, it's delayed. They go, oh, okay, that's what it looks like. So like I don't get to that point, but like I'll just hit play and pause and go that route. But like that's sort of where I've got like this idea of like visualization and just seeing what you're doing. And once you see it, you'll understand what I'm talking about, the amount that I explain to them, Yeah.
So you've mentioned a few times already with the club coach, I want to ask this first. You've coached club and you've coached like school ball.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer and why?
All right. So, I think that's a pretty easy answer for me right now. I mean, I coached school for 4 years, and then I saw my mom go through it for 20 plus years as a varsity coach at Licking Valley. So club is definitely number one for me. That's where you get the most athletes that like want to be there.
Yeah.
And in school ball, you get athletes that are like, I don't really want to be here, but my mom's making me.
Or I want to be a part of the team because my friends are playing.
Exactly. Or you get some of those athletes as well. And like, so they're not, you'll try to coach them the best you can, but like they're not really internalizing it and trying to do something with it, or don't plan on doing it in the future or something like that. Usually people who play club have some idea of, I might want to play in college, or I might be just doing this for fun. Like once they get like 16, 17, 18, they have an idea if they're going to play in college or not. But club is where it's at 100%. Like it's not just, I mean, money's always an issue, really. So when you're looking at school ball, like coaches just don't get paid enough
No.
for what, like any sport, really, not
No.
just volleyball. Coaches just don't get paid enough for the amount of work and just work that they put in, you know.
I mean, time away from family, because a lot of these all these practices are usually in the evening right after
Yeah.
school's done. So like, you know, you may not be getting home sometimes, you know, till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And that's including your entire day of, you know, some of these people are coaches or teachers as well. So they're at school from 7 in the morning till 7 at night sometimes.
Yeah. And that's I mean, my girlfriend Izzy, she's a teacher, and she also coaches volleyball. She coaches at Buckeye, and so last year she taught. She's been teaching for 3 years and coached afterwards, and it was just like a massive toll on her. Like she sometimes 7 days a week. It was Monday through Sunday or Sunday through Sunday, like just constant work. And then on top of that, you have administration, which some schools are good at, some are not the best at all. And then you have parents on top of that. My kid should be playing more than this kid. My kid should be the libero.
Do you experience that in club as well, or more so in school ball, would you say?
I'd say you see it more in school ball,
Okay.
I'd say, just because you do have these parents that say, you're going to play this sport. I don't care if you're a softball player. You're going to play volleyball. You know,
Almost the parent living through the kid.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the worst things to see. I hate that.
Yeah.
Awful. But you do see it in clubs sometimes as well. Like, it's unfortunate, but like, some clubs are good at it. Some clubs are bad at it. But like, here at Train4Freedom, we try to stick with like 10 girls on a team. And because, I mean, they're paying for a service, they want to make sure they're getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
That's just what it is, you know? And so if your kid isn't getting that playing time, or is like, they don't feel like their kid is like improving to the extent that they want them to do, they'll probably say something. Like I've seen some situations where that's just not, they're not getting the playing time that they want, like, and then they'll just quit, or they'll complain to the director, or they'll go to the coach and like start a whole big situation that doesn't really need to be said. But I'd say if you see it in club, it's bigger. It's like a bigger situation because they're paying all this money. Club isn't cheap, like no matter what sport. Like some clubs cost, like $5,000.
Yeah.
You know, and then on top of that, you have private lessons and camps and whatever, and then travel.
Travel's
I mean, huge.
Like I've been seeing in this softball world, because my boss, his daughter plays travel softball, and it's like, good Lord, you guys are like, Chad Dennis right now, I believe, is in Florida for a tournament, and it's like, you guys travel all over, literally all over the country for tournaments. Like that's first off, like going to Florida once a year is expensive. Going to Florida multiple times a year, or going to all these states, like it adds up real quick.
Oh, for sure. Like the past couple of years, I've gone to like 2 or 3 qualifiers, which are out-of-state tournaments. The past couple of years, I went to Chicago, Philly, Indy. This year, I'm going to St. Louis.
Okay.
There are some qualifiers in like Florida as well, and Washington, D.C., but it's not cheap. It's not cheap, and when a parent doesn't feel like they're getting their money's worth, they're gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you for sure. But yeah, it's more of a bigger situation in club than school ball.
I will say though, like with club, I played AAU basketball and stuff, and like I loved AAU ball, I think, more than I like school ball, because like, one, I feel like there's a little bit less pressure on you, because like you don't have the whole school watching you, and you don't see these people every day. Some of these people you may play with that year and honestly never talk to again. Now, I mean, that's how I played AAU a few years, and I still keep in contact with a lot of them, but not all of them. And it's just like a cool thing, because like I feel like there's less pressure. And those like out of state, or you know, those far away tournaments, those are so much fun as a kid, especially because you get to create memories that, you know, not every kid gets to have.
Oh, for sure. That's probably the best part. Like looking back at it, like when I played my 1 year, I went to Chicago. I played in Chicago. It was awesome. It was one of the best experiences I've had as a volleyball player. Like, unfortunately, men's volleyball is the same time as like basketball.
Yep.
And I was a basketball player, so like it was like I had to choose quit basketball and play club, or
Yeah.
vice versa. I ended up choosing basketball, but so that's why I only played 1 year of club. But like that travel is like just a once in a lifetime experience that you're not going to get. So
Right.
like when I hear like at 12s, I get it. 12s, 13s, maybe 14s. If you don't want to travel, I get it. They're super young. But
You
like,
still don't even know if they're going to completely stick with this
Exactly.
sport.
Yeah, which is one of the main reasons why like we don't with our 12s teams and maybe our 13s teams, like we don't have them travel like super far.
Right.
Like we'll keep them like Central Ohio because we know 12s they're probably one not the greatest.
Yeah.
You know, and two like some of them probably don't even like the sport. You know, at that sport, like at that age, they don't even know if they want to keep playing volleyball.
Right.
Like their parents might be saying, wow, let's try it one more year. You know,
Yeah.
they might not be pushing them, but say, okay, let's do it one more year, see what you like, and then
Maybe see if that attitude towards it changes a little bit, and if
Yeah,
it does, then we'll
exactly.
continue. If not, then it's almost like the last straw. Like we'll see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happens here. Yeah, I get that. So kind of how did the volleyball program start here? Because I
Oh, yeah.
mean, it's all of a sudden, it just kind of happened. I'm curious how it started.
Yeah, so that's sort of the same way of how I found Train for Freedom. It sort of just happened. But like before I started coaching at Train for Freedom, like for our club, I coached at Buckeye.
Okay.
And they had the location over here, and great facility. And nothing against Buckeye, really. I lived out in Newark, so it just sort of made sense. But they were there, and then they closed down the location, and that was that. It was either drive out to their Westerville location and coach there every day, or be here in Newark. And I'm working at Train for Freedom already as a strength and conditioning coach, and I'm like, kind of just makes sense to coach here. Like it was my mom had the idea, we have the gym, why don't we just like make our own club, because at the time we had our teams. They were there, like the girls that were on our teams. I had my 16s team, and my mom had her 14s team. Like they were with us, like they were our team. I had my team since they were like 12 years old.
Yeah.
So everybody knew everybody. They were familiar with me. I was familiar with them. Like it was like a family. I was like their older sisters, and that older brother, But other than that, we had our teams, and we had this opportunity because we had a gym. So like last year, I guess, we started with 3 teams. We had my 17s team, my mom's 15s team, and then we kind of threw together like a 12s, 11s, 12s team mishmash. There's like a 9-year-old on there, but other than that, at that point, they're all the same skill, and that's sort of how it started. Like I talked to Brandon, I was like, hey, what do you think about us like starting a volleyball club like out of this side? We can rent the court from Kellen at the time and then just run with it. And he was like, hey, I love it. That's great. That's more exposure for Train for Freedom. That's just more people coming in, more people we're affecting in the long run, and we just ran with it.
Yeah.
And so since then, it's just been improving. Like this year, we have 8 teams, and improvement from 3 teams last year. So like, and they're all like decently good teams. Like I haven't seen them play yet. Club hasn't started.
Yeah.
The season hasn't started yet. But like, I think for the majority, they're going to be good talent. Tryouts were kind of crazy because like it being our second year, I'm always expecting, we're going to fill these teams. It's going to be easy, but like that's way easier said than done.
Right.
So like going into tryouts in the summer, they have 2 waves, summer and then fall. It was like we posted these dates, and then they can pre-register and da-da-da. And like our 15s, there was like 30 plus girls there. I'm like, dang, that's kind of crazy. Like all these girls are coming to us, like trusting us. Like again, that feeling of being like just super thankful. Like I can't believe like this is actually happening. But that was like each age group. 18s was a little sketchy, but at that age they're either playing for fun or they're playing for college, and so that one's kind of tough. But the amount of people that showed up and like the reactions and like the reviews that they were telling us, like they were trusting us, and
Yeah.
that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, I want to ask too, like with club volleyball, I don't know if it's similar, like with some of the stuff I'm seeing with travel softball and club, or I don't even know if it's club softball. I don't know what it's called exactly,
Yeah.
but there's players from 3 hours away. Are you guys mainly a lot of local players, like in Central Ohio area, I guess I'd say, or do you kind of have there's even out of state players, which is insane to me.
That's crazy.
But like, kind of where are your players, kind of coming from?
Yeah, mostly Central Ohio.
Okay.
That's the farthest we have coming from is like Logan,
Okay.
Ohio. I think
Which is probably what, like an
and a
hour?
half. I think they drive like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Which I mean
That's
still
long,
kind of big
yeah.
deal. She's on our 18s team, and I mean for a teenager to drive an hour and a half 2 times a week,
Yeah.
that's kind of a lot. So like that's probably the farthest one we have, but mostly around this area. We have a couple out from Columbus right now, but LCL maybe closer, like Columbus schools as well. But yeah, Central Ohio.
Which age do you prefer to coach? Because I mean, you've kind of coached a wide range, and you've even trained probably some even wider range.
Mm-hmm.
Which age do you prefer to coach, and why?
Oh shoot, that's a tough one. I mean, I have coached a lot of them, so a lot of people don't really like coaching the littles, but like I kind of don't mind coaching littles. They're kind of crazy. Like when I say littles, I say like 12 or 13 maybe.
What drives me crazy about them is that sometimes they don't listen, and then they get a little crazy, and they're off in la la land, and it's like, all right, reel it back in, reel it back in.
Yeah. But I really don't mind coaching them. They're not a bad crew. They're just fun. You just don't know what to expect with them. So like they might come into practice like wearing like pajamas or something like that. I don't know. It's just something crazy. But I'd probably say my favorite is probably like 14 or 15, like the middle school age, maybe freshman age, because like they're new, but they're getting to that point where they sort of want to get better and they want to learn. So they're actually like listening, and that's where you see the most growth from the athletes is around that age, because they're actually taking it serious. Yeah, probably 14s or 15s would probably be my favorite so far. It's just the growth, like I said before, seeing the growth and the click. That's cool. That's cool.
Is that the same in like strength and conditioning and speed training? Is that same across the board on that, or is there a different age that you'd prefer on strength and conditioning and speed training?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. That's kind of tricky, because I mean I've been coaching volleyball longer than I've been doing strength and conditioning, so I'd probably say yes. Probably that same thing, because they are starting to take it serious. Like my very first client was a 4-year-old.
Wow.
and so that was sort of just like him coming in, and we do some running and jumping and just basic stuff, basic stuff, bottom of the barrel. But coaching the littles is a lot of fun too, like because there's structure, but there's not structure.
Right.
So like you can sort of like go off into this direction if you want to introduce like squatting and deadlifting or something like that. Not really deadlifting, but just getting like not deadlift. Why do I say that? Squats. Just get squats. Just get squatting in, like technical form and stuff like that. Just basic stuff. I think I like doing the littles on that side. Right now.
Yeah.
I might change in a couple years, but
yeah, I mean it could change day to day too.
I know.
I kind of wanted to go into your fitness as well, because you're running like half marathons and stuff now. What is up with that? And have you always been into like running, or is that something that you've just kind of started to venture into?
So it's that like the competitiveness that I hated running. Hated it. I still kind of do.
I feel like that's how every running is. It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Love-hate relationship for sure. I didn't really start like after I graduated high school. I just got into like just every time I went into the gym, I'd just jump on the treadmill, run a mile. And then I was getting like faster and faster, trying to run the mile in a faster time, and that was sort of it. And since like I'd stopped running for a little bit, and like it was a couple of years now when I ran my marathon, the Columbus Marathon, I saw like something on Instagram or something like that on like in November, and the race was October, the year before I ran it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon. And I was like, that's sort of how it happened. I was a big lifter. I wasn't doing anything really. I had really nothing to do. So I was like, I'm just going to start running. I got to do something, you know? So, and I think that the competitive drive is what just pushed me to do it. Like I said it just in the car. I was scrolling on Instagram. I'm going to run a marathon next year. And so like the very next day I went out and just ran. I started a year long of training for the marathon. And,
Wow.
And I'm going to say this, I probably overtrained to an extent. Like I was running like 2 to 3 times a week all the way up to the marathon. Like I didn't change it. I just like very, very gradually worked my way up to the full marathon length. And before the marathon, I think the max I ran was like 18 miles. And the training, I got to tell you, is the absolute worst part about it. It's just the worst because like unless you're running with somebody, it's just you.
And it's very hard to find somebody that's wanting to go run 18 miles.
I know. Even to like get on a bike and do that too, that's still not an easy task. But the training has got to be the most grueling and terrifying part about running marathons and half marathons and stuff. But like, because it's just you. If you want headphones, you put headphones in, and then you just run. Like you get to a point where your body's just starting to just shut down. You're sort of shuffling your feet. Your knees are starting to buckle. Yep. And you're only at mile 10. You know? So it's tough. The training is definitely the toughest part. But once I got the race day, and Columbus, like it was a completely different atmosphere. If like, I would highly recommend doing not the full marathon, but maybe like the half marathon, because you still get that same experience. There's like hundreds, thousands of people running this at the same time you are. You're like weaving between people. The streets are like lined with like people just let's go, you got it, and these like funny signs. Like it's the atmosphere that the actual race is in is just like completely different than the training, and that's what made me go back. Is because of the atmosphere that you run the race in. Like, I ran the marathon. I didn't really have a goal. I just wanted to finish it. So I ended up running it like 4:16, maybe something like that, something crazy. And my brother decided to run that with me. Like, he didn't start training until the April before. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna kill yourself, because I've been running all this time beforehand, and that he ended up beating me by like 2 seconds. He had that like last kick of the sprint, and I'm like, I'm literally giving everything I have right now.
What does your training look like it for now? Because you're still running them. So like, what's your training like? Like how many times a week you're running and that kind of stuff?
So it's been kind of all over the place right now. I don't really have a structure right now. I picked up like a side job during the day, so my time is kind of limited. So I try to get in running at least twice a week, no matter if it's like a mile or 3 miles or however. I probably won't train more than 3 miles, but it's just lifting twice and running twice, and that's pretty much how I've been trying to structure my lifting. Is because I've been so busy with volleyball and then clubs starting to pick up again. It's sort of like declined a little bit, just because my focuses have been elsewhere. But like when I'm in it, that's sort of what I go to. Try to once or twice a week, probably mid to low mileage.
Okay.
But yeah, that's sort of how I do it.
Kind of going back into some of the strength training too, like with your athletes, I wanted to ask how much strength training is involved with a volleyball athlete? Because I feel like there's a lot of sports that are misconceptualized of, you don't need to strength train for this. Like, you know, I feel like a lot of people might not think that you need to do any type of strength training, per se, for a volleyball athlete. So how much is involved?
I mean, I'd say there's quite a bit of strength training, and really any sport that you play, but volleyball specifically, like it's a lot of the same motions. If you like look at it like a basketball player, like you're gathering underneath I can't talk. Gathering your feet underneath you. You're jumping up, trying to grab a rebound, trying to get as high as you can to get on top of the ball and hit the ball down. Like, the higher you get up, the better chance you're going to hit the 10-foot line instead of the back line, you know?
Yeah.
So jumping higher is just probably what people see, right?
Right.
And then you have arm speed. Like if you don't work on like plyometrics, like upper body plyometrics with your upper body, like you're going to be like stagnant. You're going to get to like a certain level. Strength training will get you to that certain level, but adding plyometrics and actually learning how to move your upper body like efficiently, you're just going to get like stuck a little bit. And that's when I get into like skill training and the strength conditioning, there's some athletes where I do both. I want to try to get it where 100% do both, but I'll get there. So I like compare it when I have a skill session, right? And you're looking at the approach. You're hitting approach left, right, left. There's a lot of the same like movements. Like if you're down here pushing a sled, right? You are like not just like stepping the sled forward, right? You're not just doing left, right, left, right, left, right. You are like actually trying to propel that sled forward, and that same motion is the exact same motion you're doing when you're doing your hitting approach, right?
So you're able to take the workouts that you're doing with athletes and translate it onto the court
100%.
of like how it is, if how it's helping you.
100%, yeah. And that's like we do box jumps over there as well, and like teaching them technical box jumps, like make sure we're getting like striking the ground with our heel and gathering ourselves so we're not carrying that momentum into the net instead of like on top of a box. Like that's same exact movement. If we jump on top of a box, we're jumping up instead of forward. Like just little things like that. That's what's going to carry over here. And obviously just like the general strength of like hex bar deadlift, shoulder press, bench press, like trying to, because you get to a point where like these 16, 17, 18-year-olds that I train right now, like they have like general strength and stuff like that, but it's not just like the big muscles that you see as well. Like to prevent injury, like you have to do like the opposite movements of what you're doing. Like if you're coming to swing like this, like you're moving forward, but then what's stopping your arm from moving backwards and like tearing something in your shoulder, right? And that's like your lat, like your deltoid, like just those little tiny muscles that's within your shoulder. Like you have to make sure you're strength training those too, because if you're, say your chest or your shoulder, like your big show muscles are super strong, those little ones that are there to like help stop that motion aren't going to be able to like stop your arm from just going forward, right? You need something to stop it, and that's what strengthening like your back and whatever those little muscles do. You know?
Yeah, the littlest workouts, like I never forget in college, like some of the things that we had to do, and I'm like, why are we doing this? And then all of a sudden I'd be like, wow, that doesn't hurt anymore like it used to when it was in high school. And it's because you're strengthening the muscles. I like to almost call it like those little they're support muscles that like really help prevent that injury a little bit. So, and that's important. And we all have gone through injuries. Injuries are bound to happen, but if you can do something to help prevent them, I definitely recommend trying to do
100%.
it. Because there's nothing worse than sitting on the sideline not being able to play.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a game changer what strength training does for your game. Like it's just like I'm surprised more people aren't doing it, and like for the people that like don't like truly understand what it's about, like it doesn't really stunt your growth, or it doesn't like it, like even I'll take my 11s and 12s teams, like we have strength training built into like our club volleyball.
Right.
Like they come in once a week throughout the entire club season and train, and like we're pretty big. I don't know if Brandon touched on it, like triphasic training, where like you focus on the eccentric and the isometrics and like just different portions on the lift, and like that has just been a game changer. Like teaching these girls how to actually control your body in these different positions, like huge carryover I've seen on the court, on the field, whatever sport you're playing.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them don't even know anything about it too, so it's kind of cool. Like, you know, I wish more coaches did, you know, work at it. And we're not saying you have to go out there and squat 500 pounds. Like, no, we're not saying that. No. What we're saying is just like little strength and conditioning drills or workouts will, like, it amazes me how many kids can't hold a plank.
I know. It's crazy.
Because Shelby started having her girls do planks before they, it's built in because of the core. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, Shelby, they're going for 30 seconds. A lot of them can't hold it for 30 seconds. Like, I'm going to get, maybe they're young and I'm just not thinking of it, right? And the one was like, you do it. And I was like, oh, you challenged me. I like competition. So I got down there with them and did it. But I'm like, I remember in high school holding a 5-minute plank. Now, is that the right thing to do? I have no idea. But at the same time, it's like, I can't believe they can't hold a 30-second plank. And, I guess when you are younger, your core is less, you're not as strong in your core. And it's something that you don't necessarily think to focus on. But the core, in my opinion, is no matter what sport you play, it's just the center of everything.
Oh, 100%. Like you see that in hitting, setting, passing, whatever. Especially volleyball, relating it to volleyball. Like if you're going up to swing, you're using your trunk to get more power, right? It's just not your arm.
Yeah,
you're turning, rotating, get that rotational power. When you're passing, you're an isometric hold of your abs, to absorb the hit that's coming to you. It's one of the biggest things for sure is using your core.
Right.
For sure. It's crazy.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. This camera only records for an hour.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Just have to start and stop it. But if you had one strength thing for an athlete, if there was one that you could give your volleyball athletes, this is the one I really if you're gonna do any of none of them, at least do this one. Is there one strength exercise that you would highly recommend
for volleyball players?
For volleyball specific.
I would say, I'm real big on technique, really. Okay. So learning how to strength is going to play a huge part. But anyways, you told me to do one thing, learning how to jump efficiently. A lot of these girls that I work with, they're just get to the ball and jump. That's it. And I have to break it down. When you're doing your approach to jump, it's more than just getting there and jumping and maybe carrying into the net. What happens if the ball's way over here or way over there? Learning how to jump efficiently is probably one of the biggest things that they could probably do, is breaking down the approach jump. And that I've seen huge changes by just changing one little thing. It will get them jumping up, and then they're able to hit it down now.
Okay.
It's learning to jump efficiently is probably key. But if you want a strength exercise, hex bar deadlift.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I fell in love with deadlifts in high school for some reason. I don't even know why. I just loved the and maybe it was just being able to bloody my shins up because I did straight bar, bloodying the shins up, and it makes you feel like you did something, I guess. But
I went through that phase too. Yeah, I get that.
I still have scars all over my shins. I even started pulling my socks up extra high to try and not get bloody shins. It never usually tended to help. I have socks that I used to cut, they'd end up cut because I'd rub against them so much. But so with one-on-one training, how long would you recommend? Because I'm sure you have some maybe one and dones, or you have some that you work with for maybe a year. So what would you recommend, and what is your thoughts on how long do you feel like you have to work with an athlete to truly make progress with them?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, we live in a world where it's instantaneous, we want it now. Yeah. But that's not, and especially in the fitness world and training world, it's not instantaneous. It's a slow build.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a tricky question because there are so many just one and done. And with my schedule, me being only one person, it's kind of tough to get in more than once. Yeah. Really. So I try my best to get as many people as I can in, but that's also one of the reasons why I just brain dump, because it is just people just come in for an hour. I have them for an hour, and that's it. they have to try to absorb everything that they can within an hour, and then maybe I'll see them next week,
Right.
or maybe I'll see them 2 weeks from now or a month. Like and plus the cost on top of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But like to see change is just dependent on the person. I always tell them, like, first time they come in, when you come in, I'm gonna talk a lot. I'm gonna give you a lot of information, but it's what you do with that information that's gonna make the change. Because, like, again, it's an hour. You have an hour, and I'm gonna try my best to give you everything I can to make sure you get better. And from that information, you take it into practice. You, like, internalize these cues that I'm giving you. Strike your right heel. Make sure your feet's underneath you. Get your elbow back. It's those cues that you carry with you into your next team practice, school practice, or group training, clinic that you go to, whatever, wherever you're going outside of volleyball. If you're touching the volleyball, taking those cues and practicing them yourself. Like, you can do, I mean, the more one-on-ones, really the better, because then I can really get into specifics. Yeah. But, like, it's what they do with information that matters. If they want quick results, then they have to sort of look at themselves a little bit. Like, the parents may blame the coach, but some coaches aren't the best. All right. But
I mean, let's be real. There's coaches out there that there's politics involved in that. So, like,
exactly.
I've seen it. Everybody talks about daddy ball, which, I'll be honest, like, I've seen both sides of it, where, like, some coaches are really good, and honestly, their son may not even start. Yeah. I played for a coach where I actually took his son's position. So, like, his son still played in a different position, but I took his position. I honestly didn't think that I was going to get it, and then I've also played on teams where maybe the son shouldn't be a starter. Maybe the son, there's both sides of the spectrum. It happens, and there's not really anything you can do about it, because you never know which one it's going to be until it's kind of already in the season.
Yeah, and it's not like you can just go up to the coach if they are doing daddy ball and be like, "Hey, you're playing this kid because he's your son." Yeah. Or,
how's that conversation really going to go?
You can't prove it. No, I'm not. He actually deserves this position. Like, it's just situations like that give coaches a bad rep. I feel like, good or bad, really. So, yeah. It's
a weird. That's one of the hardest things, I feel like. And I feel like it's kind of nice for you because you don't have any ties. So, like, there's nothing, and you're still going to have those people. You're always going to have them who think their kid, everybody thinks their kid is usually God's gift. That's what everybody thinks. And I get it. When I have kids one day, they're going to be the best athletes. There's no telling me otherwise. So, like,
oh yeah, for sure.
I understand it. But I think a big thing too, that I think a lot of people, I like that you kind of dump all this information and you say it's like what they do with it. Mm-hmm. And because I think a lot of people get misconceived of, like, all right, my daughter should be playing over her. And it's like, how much work is your daughter putting in outside of just practice?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a thing that I think a lot of parents don't keep into consideration. It's like, the reason she's also playing, she may be a little bit worse. Even it could happen where she might be a little bit worse, but she puts in way harder work, and she's, like, willing to do the work. And I think that a lot of people don't understand. Like, you could go to training twice a week, you can go to practice 2 or 3 times a week, but if you just do those, you will never be the best.
Yeah, especially today, though. Like, everybody's doing extra work.
Yes.
There's so many different opportunities to get extra work in. Like, it's kind of hard not to get extra work in, because, like, you can look online. There's so many Facebook groups or, like, stuff going on out there, but, like, just say, hey, is there any opportunities to get private lessons in? And then, like, 7 different people will comment, yeah, choose this person. And it's, if you have the money, I would definitely invest in it 100%, because you're going to see the results.
Oh, I personally did it in school, and it was a game changer. It helped me, kind of get to that college level that I wanted to be at. So it's definitely a game changer. And we live in a world now, too, like even if you don't necessarily have the money, there are so many things that you can look up online.
Yes.
You might not be able to get to the level of the person if you're putting in the same work as the person that's going to private lessons. You may not be able to get to that level, but it's still possible just by working at home. If your family doesn't have that money, there's still a possibility. There's still work that can be done just at home.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. Like, that's one of the main reasons why, like, I post some of the videos I post on my social media about like volleyball training, the stuff that I dump on these athletes.
Right.
I just take it and share it.
Yeah.
And then that way, like, they're not getting specific one-on-one trainings from me. Maybe they can't afford it, but like they can see that maybe I should be doing this. Maybe if I try this, like, I'll get better, you know, and they'll experiment with it and go from there. That's another thing that I am like a huge believer on. It's just like experimenting on what works for you, because like everybody is different. I saw this video the other day, and it explained like what experimenting and like actually trusting the process, like fully trusting the process. Because I explain this to my athletes that come in for one-on-ones. Like, they'll come in and they're not getting a good swing. They're not getting a perfect pass. I'm like, okay, let me tell you something. When you come in here, you're in here, I'm going to break you down. That's just the fact of it. I'm going to say, make sure you're getting your feet under there. Let's try this. So you're coming in here, I'm going to change something. It's going to feel super weird, and it's probably not going to be perfect from the start, So I'm like, you just have to like bear with me, trust the process. And the more you'll do it, the better you're going to be. That's the whole thing with this practice.
Or at the same time, you can experiment, and you may at the end of it go, that's not going to work. Like exactly. Some people like it's not. Yeah. It's worth trying though, because guess what? What if you did find something that just completely changed? Like it changed everything.
Exactly.
So being willing to try new things, it's. I saw so many athletes growing up, that were stuck in their ways, and that's how I was that way. Like I was stuck in certain things, and then when you were willing to try this lift or try, stand your stance this way, because I remember just a DB stance in high school it was just like a normal athletic stance. College we stood like a wide receiver, and it was the weirdest thing to me, but I came to love it, and it became. And the reason I liked it is because they wanted you like act like you were going downhill at all times. You weren't kind of just in this lazy position, and I mean, you didn't really have the choice but to try that. But it was one of the things that I honestly, truly did come to love. So you never know what's going to happen just from trying a new thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I'll tell. That's just one of the biggest things I tell my athletes is just to don't be afraid to try new things. Like, you're only limiting yourself.
Right.
If you don't try new things, if you like just hesitate, that's different, I don't want to do that, you're only limiting yourself. And that, like, even for myself, like as I'm coaching, I come up with all these like little cues depending on the athlete to try to get something to click in their brain. Some things might work for other people, but like I'll come up with something like super, super weird and funny, and I'll just throw it out there. I mean, if it doesn't work, it don't work. But like I'm just trying different things. I'm experimenting with these different cues to try to get it sink in with these different like outlooks that these athletes have. There's one thing I'll do with like your hitting arm. I tell people to pull your elbow back like you're pulling a bow and arrow, and then I'll use like hitting a ball with like a windmill or like a whip, right? That's just how you look at it, how you see it. It's going to be different each person. Right.
And what I wish, it's really hard to convey to a 14, 12, however old they are, a younger person, is trying new things in athletics isn't just about trying new things in athletics. It's about coming later in life. Look at you. If you would have never tried to, talk to Brandon about starting a club volleyball team, you wouldn't be coaching.
I'd be driving to Westerville.
Yeah. So like, it's being willing to take the chance or try something. You never know where it's going to lead, and whether it works out or not, you learn from it.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is just like taking a swing in the dark. That's a saying, right? It's just throwing it out there. I mean, you're still going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, like what you said about playing a rec ball. If we lose a game, it's not going to affect you. I mean, some decisions might, but like, like for the most part, you're still here. You're still living, and that's what you got to hang on to. You know.
So I got one final question before I kind of go into the final segments of this podcast. We're approaching the end of the year. We're approaching the start of club season. I kind of want to ask you what goals should volleyball athletes you feel at this time be starting to set for themselves? Do you have anything that you think that should be a goal, or, you know, everybody's kind of specific towards their own thing, but is there a goal or something that they should try to strive for?
I'd say, like, especially now, like with club season just now starting, like tournaments starting, like our first tournament is December 7th.
Okay.
Right on the corner, 2 weeks away, I think. But I'd say one of the biggest things they should strive for, I mean, is exactly what we just talked about, is like, don't be afraid to try something new. Like, if it's like a new club or like a new technique on how you jump, or like a new lift that you do in the weight room, like, you just try new things, and you might find something that you love. Try if you're going to I feel like I'm shouting myself out, but like if you're going to one coach now for like a one-on-one session, like it's always good to have like different viewpoints and coaches and stuff like that. But people just coach different ways. But try something new that you're not used to, different technique or whatever. Just experiment.
Yeah, people are real quick to try restaurants, but not real quick to try new things in other aspects of life.
Exactly.
So, but I do have one final question on the podcast that I like to ask every single guest, and it is, if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Oh, shoot. Part of me wants to tell myself to stick with volleyball. But I don't know. I'd tell him trust the process.
Okay.
Trust the process, good. You know. It's all gonna work out. Like, it's gonna be bumpy. You're gonna have your ups and downs, but like, it's all leading to what you truly want. You know. So, I think that's probably what. Just trust the process, and it'll all work out. Yeah. That's probably what I tell myself. That's a good question.
I feel like we all too, even no matter what age you are, we try to control the process too much.
Yes. I 100%. I think you see that a lot with like, I want to say like entrepreneurs or whatever like that. Like, they think they should be doing something that might, like, they're forcing something to happen instead of like something just naturally happening.
Like, hey, this will happen. You just have to give it time sometimes. Yeah, like sometimes it's like that where like they're trying to make it happen or sooner than it needs to happen, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So
yeah, like I've always believed things happen for a reason.
Right.
And so, like, I mean, this was always going to be here for me, you know? Like, volleyball was always going to be in my life. Going in college, I wanted to get a job at a gym, but I worked in the VA instead. Like, it was like those little things that are going to push you to, like, they're preparing you for what you want to do in the future. 100%, even if you don't know it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But Jordan, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been a great time. I'm glad we got to do it in a different view of the gym of Train4Freedom. I highly recommend Train4Freedom. But where can people find and follow you on social media and connect with you if they want training or anything like that? Yeah.
So website train4freedom.com. You can find all our services that you have there. Volleyball lessons, you can go on and schedule them. I'm still week to week, so that's kind of tricky. Reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Coach_Heiney.
Okay.
I think, but
I'll have the links to it in the episode description as well if you guys need it. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a great time. So,
yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, this is your first podcast, correct?
This is my first podcast. So Brandon's been wanting to start one. So
yeah, I know. I keep bugging him about it. He needs to.
I know.
It would be good.
I know. Me too.
It would be good. But yeah, so that's all we got for this week's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. But until next time, you guys know the deal. Life is hard and it's going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks Out.